Hello everyone, my name is Amber. Welcome to my channel, Amber Reads Romance. Today I am starting my vlog for the Mafia Romance Readathon. I absolutely love Mafia Romance. I'm a huge fan of it. I've done a couple videos so far, but I have so many more recs to do. But what got me into Mafia Romance was the Mafia Romance Readathon. Jen from the Book Refuge started this. I don't know if she's been doing it for 4 or 5 years, but I basically got into it from just participating in the readathon, and I really fell in love with Mafia Romance, and I haven't looked back since. I read a lot of Mafia. It's like a big chunk of what I read every month, so I just love it. So it's a big thank you to Jen at the Book Refuge for introducing me and making me realize that Mafia Romance is so amazing. So I decided I wanted to do a vlog again. I did one last year. I will try to link that down below or put up in the cards if you are interested in checking out my vlog. I think I cried. If I'm remembering correctly, I think that's when I read Cosa Nostra from Nikki Harris, and I literally bawled my eyes out. And I wasn't expecting that for Mafia Romance. So it's surprising. You can get some really emotional, moving stories in Mafia Romance, so don't count it out. When I first thought of Mafia Romance, I'm like, oh, it's another arranged marriage. It's, the Italian families. It just seems so basic to me, but it's so much more than that, and I just love it. But anyways, that's enough gushing. I'm gonna go over kind of like my TBR, my choices of what I'm gonna read. And I did already finish one of my books today. I started it last night and finished it today. I was listening to an audiobook. But let's go ahead and dive into my plans, and then I will start talking about at least the first book that I read. Okay, so let's go ahead and just get started because I don't want to make a super long vlog for you guys. And I don't know how much I'm going to read. I have a pretty ambitious TBR. And for this vlog, I'm actually going to just be probably going over books as I finish them, because I really want to get cracking and read as much as I can to earn as much points as I can, to see where I rank at the end. So, anyways, by the time I post this, it's already going to be done, but Jen had posted a lot of amazing, cool graphics on her Instagram. She has a static bingo board, so it's a little bit more of a challenge this time to try and get bingos. It's not a build your own bingo board, so I really liked that. She also had another graphic that was showing extra points you could get. I don't know if I'm right, but I think it was 5 points if you read one of the host recs, stuff like that. If it was a musician or a runaway woman or just little things like that can earn you extra points. So I tried to pick and kind of craft my TBR around those extra points, and then obviously getting a bingo. I don't think I'm going to be able to black out my board, but I do still have an ambitious TBR, and I hope I read everything on it. We will see. But the first book that I actually read was a Lilian Harris. I just got on her ARC team, and I signed up for her ALC team. So I did actually get the ALC for Savage Wounds. And I started listening to that late last night, and then I finished it today at work. And I really enjoyed the audiobook. This is the 4th book in her, I think it's the Messina crime family. And honestly, I had never read Lilian Harris till I signed up for her ARC team, and I just read her most recent release, which I think was Ruthless Savage. So that was my first Lilian Harris, and I really enjoyed it. I got the ALC for this, and it's the 4th book, and I have not read any of the previous books in this series, but I don't think that was a horrible thing, because I think Lilian Harris did a really good job of setting up previous events and characters and who our main players were. Obviously, I'd probably get a lot more out of it if I had read the previous books, but I still enjoyed it. So, in this, hold on, let me get my characters' names here. Okay, so in this book, we have a kind of like a masked stalker romance with a vigilante, like, serial killer. And our heroine is the serial killer. She is killing men that are creeps and rapists and creepy dudes. She had been taken with a couple of her friends and by sex traffickers, and for 9 years she basically suffered, being a sex slave in the sex trafficking ring. And so she has a lot of trauma. She has been freed of that, but it's been only I think 4 months or something, I believe, that's gone by. And she's going to therapy and trying to work through things, but she has a lot of anger and she wants to hurt these men that did this to her. She actually is a stripper. She kind of gets off. It's kind of like that CNC thing. She does have rape fantasy. Because of what happened to her. She likes the idea of having that power, and she likes men watching her, so that's why she's a stripper, where they can watch her but they don't get to do anything, and she's in the place of power. She likes the feeling of being wanted, but they can't do anything. So one night a guy is groping her at the strip club and he gets in trouble. Oh no, I'm sorry, it was at a bar. And he gets in trouble or whatever. And she gets pretty pissed off about that. And so there is another situation too, at the strip club, where this guy gropes her, gets in trouble for it. But when she leaves for the night, she hears him attacking this other stripper. And so she breaks out her knife and stuff and threatens him. And later that night, she decides to go to his house and kill him. And she does, but in a really messy fashion where she's leaving evidence everywhere. So she has to call one of her best friends that was also taken, is married to Michael. He's in the Messina family. And so she has to call Michael for help. So he has to come clean up her mess. She does say he attacked her, whatever, attacked her friend. But he basically says, okay, that's it. You need a bodyguard. We need a bodyguard on you. And I don't care if you don't want it. You're getting a bodyguard. So she gets this bodyguard, Chris. But at the same time, also, she has had interactions with a stalker. I think it's Adriel. Is that right? Yeah, Adriel. He's kind of a secretive. I don't want to say too much because it'll give away who he is and reveal who he really is and stuff. But he becomes fascinated by her. He saw her at the strip club that night and he knows that she killed people and he's following her. And so he kind of helps her at another crime scene where she leaves a mess. And he's like, I'll always protect you. We can keep each other's secrets. At the same time, there's also another serial killer out there attacking innocent women. So she wants to find the serial killer and he's telling her that's too dangerous. You don't know what you're messing with. So basically it starts this dynamic between them. He wears a mask and, he's stalking her, but he's also protecting her. And she's basically murdering and torturing these creeps. So it is very dark. It has a lot of violence, a lot of torture. The heroine did kind of annoy me at certain times. I don't know. It was just a lot of I've never really been a fan of the female serial killer except for the Mindfuck series. So I don't know. I just have a hard time connecting to that. But I do think this was a really interesting book. I liked both the characters. There were some crazy twists and a big reveal, at the end. And I did enjoy it. So I ended up giving this one 4 stars. I think I didn't put the trigger warnings, but obviously there's a lot of mentions of her rape. On page, it talks about it. So just be aware, it's pretty traumatic. And then obviously a lot of death, torture, violence. It's pretty dark stuff. So I had a good time. I think I only gave it 3 chilies because there was some really good spice in it, but it was not crazy spice or anything. I still enjoyed it. The audiobook was really well done. I like flew through that thing so fast. I couldn't stop listening to it. So I had a great time with that one. I'm also reading, hold on, let me get that. I'm also reading Cruel Paradise, which is the second book, I think in the Beautifully Cruel series by J.T. Geissinger. I recently read the first one. I thought it was okay, but this one was Killian's romance, and he's kind of like an undercover, because I think he was in the military. He worked as an agent and did all of this like kind of spy stuff. But now he's pretending to be his twin brother, who was like the head of the Irish Mafia. So that was going to give me extra points for like the undercover kind of thing. And then I am just started rereading Twisted Emotions. This is one of my favorite Mafia romances of all time, Nino Falcone, and which I have it right here. So I'm actually listening to it on audiobook, but I'm also going along in my ebook to kind of like highlight things, because I might decide to annotate this one, because it is one of my favorites of all time. Nino Falcone's Top Book Boyfriend. I love this romance so much. So I'm rereading this because Jen's pick for the readathon was actually Twisted Pride, which is Ramo Falcone's romance, which I've already read, so I'm going to reread that one. I was really excited when I started listening to the audiobook for this one, because it's Teddy Hamilton, and I love him, so it's fantastic. So that's kind of where I'm at in the readathon so far. I'm hoping I'm going to finish Cruel Paradise tonight. Not sure how far I'll get into the audiobook. Might have to finish that tomorrow when I'm at work. But I am feeling pretty good so far. So I will check back in with you guys, maybe tonight or tomorrow, depending on where I'm at. All right. See you guys in a bit. Hey everyone, so I am doing my next check-in. I actually did finish the other Mafia book that I was reading last night, so I just want to do a quick update on it. It didn't go so well for me. I was reading the second book of J.T. Geissinger's. I can't remember what the first book, it was something cruel, whatever, but this one was, I believe, Cruel Paradise, and this was Killian's romance, Killian Black. The first one was Liam Black's romance. I picked this one because Killian is actually posing as his brother. He actually works, I think, for the military and did like almost CIA type of stuff, but I think it might have been MI6. I can't remember. But anyways, he was basically like a spy. And so he's like undercover. Sorry, my cat is out here meowing every single time. So he's actually like posing as the head of the Irish Mafia, Liam, and he's posing as his brother Liam, because Liam basically retired to go off with his love. And that's the character from the first book. So I was really interested in this. I thought the first book was okay. This is not as good as her Queens and Monsters series, like by far. It's not as good. But I really liked Killian, and I did enjoy him in this book. This is very like insta-lust, insta-love. Killian is immediately sees our heroine is like gone for her and obsessed with her. And I'm all for an obsessed hero, but I don't know why he was into this heroine. Like, I hated her. She was so annoying. She, like, I see that J.T. Geissinger was, like, trying to do, like, the sassy, feisty chick, but really, she was just a fucking idiot. And I didn't like her. I didn't like her. She's, like, the daughter of a Don, a Mafia Don, and she's, like, went off with her couple of her best friends, and they live under different names because they hate that their fathers are evil bad men, so they like steal from the rich to give to the poor to like make up for their dad's stupid actions. And I was just like, really? Like, it was just such a flimsy setup, but I was like, okay. It felt very slapstick, like over the top kind of comedy that I just was just like, okay. So her and her friends steal like a huge truck of like diapers from like one of his many companies. And he sees that it's like these chicks, and he's immediately interested in her. And so he's like, finds out who she is, and he starts like kind of pursuing her. And we do see Declan in this. Declan was like one of his like second in command or something like that. So I do love seeing Declan again. But I mean, this heroine was so annoying. She like kept pushing him away. She was like total sassy and like felt like she's like too good for him and what he's about because he's a gangster. And it's like, dude, he obviously was giving all these hints that there was more to him. But as he pursues her, he's like, there's more to me. I can tell you more. But like, I need to know you're all in. I need to know you love me. I need to know you trust me. And she refuses to say that ever. And so he can't tell her the truth. It's not just his life. It's other people's lives at risk. Is his brother's life at risk? He's a spy. He's got a bit of this big picture plan. And so she just drove me nuts. And then like at one point she kind of goes away from him and does this like week away that she needs to get away. And they end up like hooking up, and she's like, okay, well, like, we're just going to have sex here. And then like, that's it. Like, then we're done. And he's like, hell no, like, we're not done. But he constantly caves to her because he's just like so obsessed with her. And I don't get his obsession. It literally talked about how over like the top hot her friends were. So I was like, why is he interested in her? I know it's mean, but she was just so annoying. She was a beating. I like couldn't handle her personality and how hard she pushed away from him and didn't want anything to do with him. And then she starts to kind of put the pieces together on who he really is. And like, instead of realizing, like, she gets it wrong. She thinks he's like a narc and you know, he's narking on other mafia people and whatever. Instead of like looking at that, she thinks, oh, he's just using me to get to my dad, and how dare he do that? And this dad that she wants nothing to do with. And instead of communicating with him, she just jumps to wrong conclusions. So it's like she pushes him away this entire book. Like, I was so bored. I did not buy into their connection because of her. I really liked Killian's character, but she was just so freaking annoying. And then it's like that typical thing where, of course, she's going to get kidnapped. And does she like admit her feelings? Like, of course, it's going to happen after she's kidnapped. Then all of a sudden she's going to acknowledge that she loves him. And it's just so stupid. And like, she should have like waited for him to like want to tell her the truth. And I wanted her to come to him and be like, you know what? I believe in you. I trust you. And instead of the way she found out who he really is. So I didn't like it. I didn't like the heroine. I skimmed a lot of it. I was bored out of my mind, and it's not even that long of a book. So I was really disappointed. I don't know. I think the Queens of Monsters thing might be like just a really lucky, amazing series from JT, because I read some of the first book in her like current series, and I didn't like it as well. So I don't know. Maybe the like over the top sassy spunky girl like that she's trying to write just doesn't translate to me. I didn't like it. Didn't like this heroine. Didn't care. So I ended up giving this 2.5 stars, and I gave it 3 chilies. Sorry, you might be able to hear my mom's cat meowing in the background because she's sitting in the window staring at me. So anyways, that one was a disappointing one. I am almost finished with Twisted Emotions, which is a reread I'm listening to on audiobook, and it's so awesome because Teddy Hamilton is a narrator. I think I'm like almost finished, like 5%. I gotta finish. So I will check in with you guys after that. But that's a reread. It's an amazing read. It's one of my favorite, all-time favorite mafia romances. So you know I'm going to have some gushing to do. And then I am actually reading the Darkest Sin by Neva Altaj. And I think it's the final book in that series. So I'm so excited to get caught up. And I just started it, and it's going really good already. I think it might be, I don't know. I'm thinking it might be one of the best ones. We'll see. So I will check back in with you once I finish Twisted Emotions, and we'll see how far I get with the Neva Altaj book. Hey guys, just checking in here. I am outside in the shade. The lighting's probably kind of off, but oh well. I am checking in next day. I did actually finish Twisted Emotions last night because I didn't have that much more to finish. I'm still reading Neva Altaj's book, The Darkest Sins, and I am loving it. I'm almost done with that one, so I'll probably do a check-in on that one later. But Twisted Emotions, you can see my little cat. My cat came. Twisted Emotions is a reread for me, and also Twisted Pride, which was Jen's pick. So that's kind of why I ended up reading it again, because I was going to read Jen's pick and do reread, but I was like, there's no way I'm not doing a reread of Nino Falcone. You know, I just love him so much. Twisted Emotions is one of my favorite mafia romances, as I've previously stated. And it just was a great reread. I listened to the audiobook this time, and it was great because Teddy Hamilton narrated, and, you know, he's my favorite. Love him. But honestly, I wanted to go into Twisted Bonds too after I finish these two books because I want to continue Nino and Kiara's romance. If you don't know, I do have a Cora Reilly intro to Mafia, Cora Reilly video that I did, so I will link that down below if I remember. Hopefully I do. So make sure to check that out because I go into basically all those books, the Born in Blood and the Cora Chronicles. But Twisted Emotions, if you don't know anything about it, we have Kiara, and she is actually the daughter of a Trado. Okay, sorry. She's actually the daughter of a trader in the Familia, which is in New York. And so she's related to Luca. And she has had such a traumatic life, childhood. I think when she was like 13, she was raped by her uncle. Not the one that took her in, but a different uncle. And he raped her multiple times. So just be aware there is mentions of previous sexual assault. And it is so devastating. I love Kiara so much. She just gets me so emotional. The things that she's been through and, you know, her trauma. She has severe trauma and sexual trauma. And now she's being put up in an arranged marriage with the Nino Falcone. And the Falcones are very widely known as being pretty chaotic, pretty crazy, pretty ruthless. They do run whores and do pretty, like, they're not like the traditional mafia like the Familia is. Like, they are crazy. And that's led by Remo Falcone, and he is crazy. So she's going to be married to Nino, and she's pretty scared out of her mind because she's not a virgin and she's freaking out. But honestly, Nino could tell something was off when they were about to have sex, and she was like shutting down, and he pretty much guessed it. And he was like, "Who did this?" And she tells him about her uncle, and he was like, "I will give them the stupid bloody sheets because I'm going to kill your uncle, and then we'll give him his blood on your sheets," kind of thing, which I just freaking love. So he calls in Remo, and they do that. They get revenge. They get vengeance for, you know, Kiara, and it's fantastic. So now she moves to Vegas, where the Cora is, their Cora, and she has to kind of try and figure out this life of being his wife. Nino is super respectful. He's like, if you don't want us to be sexual, I can just get my rocks off with like whores or whatever. And at first she was like, yeah, I don't want that, so go ahead. But she slowly starts to really like Nino. He's really attractive. And she kind of tells him, like, I don't really want you to do that with like random whores anymore. Like, I want us to try. So Nino is like the most patient, like attentive guy that's like really helps her get over her sexual trauma. Like, he slowly introduces her to sex, gives her the power in the relationship and dynamic by letting her cuff him up and all this stuff. And so you get to watch this beautiful like evolution of Kiara and her growing like sexually confident and being into it and realizing it's not like painful every time and a traumatic thing. The thing with Nino is he does not have emotions. He had a severe trauma as a child where his mother tried to kill him and his brothers. And him and Ramo are pretty effed up. So he's kind of never shown his emotions. He may like kind of be neurodivergent too. He's extremely intelligent, methodical, thinks through. And so he kind of tells her straight up, like, I don't feel anything. I don't feel emotions. So if you need me to, like, I can copy emotions. I can kind of make you, like, he even asked her, like, do you want me to copy love? Like, I can make you feel like I love you. And because at one point she tells him she loves him, and he's like, I can't do that. Like, he goes, do you want me to copy love? Like, and then and she tells him, no freaking way. Like, I don't want you faking love with me. But of course, slowly Nino's emotions start to come out, and he falls in love with Cora, and it's just really beautiful. Their story does continue in Twisted Bonds, and I loved that book too. They're just one of my favorite couples. I love the Cora. I love how crazy the Falcones are. I love Ramo. And that brings me to the next book, because today, while I was cleaning the house, I was cleaning my mom's house this weekend, and so I just put on Twisted Pride, turned up that speed, and I listened to that all day while I cleaned. And so I already finished it. I flew through that book really quickly too, and it was a fantastic reread. So that one is Ramo Falcone's romance, and Ramo is a psychopath. He's pretty ruthless. He's scary. He doesn't give a fuck about anything except for his brothers and, his family. So he actually has a plan. He wants to kidnap Serafina. She is the niece to Dante. So if you've read the Bound in Blood series, you know who Dante is, and he's in the Chicago outfit. And they had previously attacked the Falcones. And so Ramo is out for blood and war, so he decides to kidnap Serafina on her wedding day. She's in her wedding dress on the way to the wedding. He kidnaps her and takes her back to Vegas. But Serafina isn't like the typical woman that he's expecting. He thought she'd be like a stuck-up little mafia princess, and she fights back with him a lot. And so his thing is about like breaking her, and he'll like videotape them, and send it to her family. She's got like a twin brother that loves her so much. I love their relationship. It's very beautiful. I always love the relationships between twins in like books. It's just very sweet. So I loved her twin and their dynamic, and he just wants to do anything to save her. He even makes like a ridiculous attempt to try and rescue her on his own without like Dante's like approval. That doesn't turn out so great. But in this, it's like you get to watch Ramo basically come to his knees for a woman. But of course, he's still dominant AF, and he's alpha. And they just play this amazing kind of game of chess, this back and forth, that they are like perfect for each other. Of course, she feels super guilty because she's like falling for him and sexually attracted to him. And when they get sexual, she feels guilty. But it's a great one. I don't want to say too much more, because if you haven't read it yet, I don't want to give anything away. I do think it's best if you read the Bound in Blood series, or Born in Blood. I think I've been saying Bound in Blood. Born in Blood first, then go to the Cora Chronicles, because it just adds more to it. But Twisted Emotions and Twisted Pride are like my favorite Cora Reilly's, but also Twisted Bonds, because that's a continuation of Nino and Kiara's romance. So I would say, I think I don't know if I gave them both 5 stars before. I know I did Twisted Emotions. I almost want to give it a 6 star, but it's a reread. So it's I kind of feel like Twisted Emotions and Twisted Bonds is like a 6 star, because it's their whole story, and it's just so beautiful. Honestly, these were like the last good books that I read of Cora Reilly's, after reading Savio and Fabio, I think it's Fabio. Adamo, sorry. After reading Savio and Adamo's romances, I was pretty upset and disappointed. So I think I might try the second generation series, but I'm not sure, because I don't know. I'm worried. I'm nervous. But these were fantastic reads. So if you haven't read them, I would highly, recommend that you do. So I needed to since I finished the audiobook super quickly, I decided I was going to get another one because I wanted to try and read a new author. All the books that I picked are authors that I've already read, and I want to hit that new author prompt. So, and then there's also extra points for Cartel. So I'm going to read a book that I can't remember what it's called, sorry, but I just used a credit. So I'm going to listen to some of that audiobook tonight, and then finish up my Neva Altaj series. And then I'm going to try and read that Danielle Lori one. Hopefully I'll finish it before the end of the readathon. Anyways, thank you guys for watching this so far. I know it's even longer than I thought it was going to be, but you know how it is. I ramble. So I will check back in with you probably tomorrow once I finish some more books and give you an update. Hey guys, so I am just checking in. It's actually Sunday, which is the same day the Mafia Readathon live show is going on. So I am still trying to finish one more book. We'll see if I finish it by tonight or not. Either way, I did really good. I'm so competitive when I do these readathons, and I got like a lot of points already. I didn't fully black out my board at all, but I did a lot on the extra points option, which the oddly specific recs, which really helped me. So I'm still trying to finish that last book. I have I think over an hour left, so I might be able to finish it by today if I don't get sucked into the other book that I'm reading. But I want to go over the other two books that I read. And I am about to actually film my weekly wrap up right now. That's why I actually have makeup on in one of these clips for a change. So anyways, let's go ahead and talk about those. So yesterday I cleaned my mom's house, listened to the whole Twisted Pride book, had a great time. I basically came home and I continued reading Darkest Sins by Neva Altaj. And then later in the afternoon, I wanted to clean my house for a bit. So I actually decided I wanted to try and get a new to me author. I didn't have any on my TBR at all. And I wanted to hit that prompt. And so I did find on one of Jen's videos from way back, another Mafia Readathon, I think it was actually a Cartel one and an age gap. And that one would be a new to me author. And I also needed a Cartel prompt. So it worked perfect. So I read Ruthless King by Faith Summers. I got this on Audible. I think I used a credit for it. And I flew through this book. It was super quick. It was a weird, interesting concept. It wasn't the best Mafia romance I ever read, but I had a really good time with it. It is in the cartel, and we have Alejandro, and he's the head of the cartel. He has a lot of shit going on in the mafia politics kind of, and some secret person that's after him. And this person that's basically kind of coming after him forces our heroine, which was Lucia. He forces her to basically go be his nanny because he is the uncle to this sweet, little girl. But her parents died, and so he's kind of taking care of her. And he needs a nanny. And he also kind of wants the nanny to be his mistress, or them have this easy hookup kind of relationship. And she's forced into this because her dad is in a dangerous situation. They have her dad, they're threatening her dad's life. And so she has to go do this job and basically kind of be a spy for them. So this book was super spicy. He's a big age gap. I love the cover of this guy on the front. The audiobook was great because the guy's voice and accent was super sexy. And I really loved it. So it's very spicy. There's a little bit of BDSM. He does handcuff her at one point. It was very fast paced, a lot of action going on. I do think the ending rushed a lot to wrap it up really quickly, but I still had a good time with it. I wasn't going in with crazy expectations because I've never read this author before, but I would be interested to read more of Faith Summers stuff. It was a very spicy, anal, lots of some BDSM, it's kinky. So I did give this 4 stars and then 4 chilies. So it was a good one. And then I finally finished, well, not finally, but I finished Darkest Sins by Neva Altaj. And this is the 9th book in the Perfectly Imperfect series, which if you haven't started that, please give it a shot. It's such a good intro to Mafia, and I think each book gets better, which proves my point right here, because this is my favorite book out of the series, and it's the 9th book. And that's kind of amazing because she keeps, it's not getting stale or boring because she has so many different types of mafia in her romances, and there's all these different characters, and some characters introduced a few books ago and then their romance will happen. And I just think her writing's improved a lot, and she's just growing as an author, and I just loved it. This one is like my new favorite. I loved this. This is between Kai and Neva, and Kai was actually quickly introduced in one of the previous books. He was also rescued by Sergei and Az, and they were part of like that kind of like secret kind of assassin type of worked for the government kind of thing. And Kai also worked with them, and now he's basically been like an assassin, like for hire, doing these big, you know, killings and missions and everything like that. And in a previous book, they actually rescue him from this like, I don't remember if it was like the cartel, but he was in Mexico and like they save him. And he happened to say like about his like tiger cub or whatever. And so this kind of takes us to back in time. So this book actually deals in the past for half of the book, and then the current timeline, which ends up being like 3 years later. And Kai was actually on a hit mission, and he got pretty badly wounded. And he kind of collapses in a alley, and he's kind of giving up because Kai is actually has such a tragic like history. You know, he was found by like in like obviously like his parents are probably heroin addicts or something and died, and they kind of had him left in this room by himself, and he was very would attack people. And so he was kind of that troubled, like at 8 years old, that guy that kind of found Sergei and them, he basically picked him to mold him into like a killing machine. So, but he's like, I love him so much. He's like a new favorite for me out of Neva Altaj's heroes. And our heroine, Neva, actually sees him down this alley and kind of does something stupid, but she's drawn to him and she goes to help him. She is actually a mafia princess. The Don is the head of, it's the Don of the Cosa Nostra. And it's in Boston. But her dad is like really cool because he actually lets her go to school and have a job. She works at a vet clinic. And so she takes him to this vet clinic. She wants to take him to the hospital, but he won't go. And she kind of patches him up, and that's that. Well, he becomes obsessed with her and he wants to protect her. And so he kind of becomes her like guardian angel, stalks her a little bit, but he doesn't know she's like a mafia princess. He doesn't go that deep into stalking her. And so she would always be aware of being watched, and she would know it was him. And he would like want an excuse to be like, see her. So he would like self-inflict wounds so he could show up at her vet clinic and she could patch him up. And so they kind of like for a year have this kind of relationship where he's like always watching her. She knows he's watching her, you know, and she wants more, he wants more, but he thinks he's just so undeserving because of everything that he's done. So it was just such a sweet little slow burn thing going between them. You could totally feel how much they loved each other. Something bad ends up happening, and he, like this makes them kind of not be together anymore, splits them up. And then it's a few years later and he's back in the picture, and he's back because he did get rescued by Sergei and Az from that cartel. And so, but a lot of things change. So I do want to say some spoilers here, because if you haven't read it yet, just be careful. So spoilers, what ends up happening is he does get a hit. And he's right before, like, he's planning on basically quitting. He doesn't want to do this anymore. He wants to be with her. And so he, like, is planning on doing that. And then he gets a hit. He never really pays attention to backstories or the person's information. He just goes and does his job. He doesn't really have a lot of empathy for that. He just doesn't care. And he ends up killing her father. And he sees her there after he's already killed him, and he knows there's no freaking way that she'll ever forgive him. How could she be with him? So he basically kind of, you know, leaves, but he keeps watching over her, and that like makes her so sad too. So he like ends up going on that mission to Mexico and end up being like a trap. His boss had totally set up the whole thing to teach him a lesson, so they end up keeping him there like and torturing him and doing stuff to him for like a few years. And then when Az and Sergey save him, he goes and like kills that boss, because that boss basically had him kill the father because he knew he was quitting for a woman and he was not having it. So he ends up coming back, killing that guy, and guess what? She was pregnant. So there's a secret baby. But I love the way this was handled. At first, I thought she wasn't going to tell him it was his, because she ends up getting married to the guy that was taking over for her father, but it's in a blackmail type of situation because she needs to protect her child. So she goes into this marriage so the child is protected. And her stepbrother is in prison, but he's the one that's been basically running the mafia through her father for years. And so she has to become basically the head of this Cosa Nostra, because then the husband dies. She becomes a female capo, like a female, not capo, I'm sorry, a donna, you know, like, so I really liked that. It was great. And that gave me another one of my additional points on my readathon. So I didn't even know that was in this book. So now he returns, and her life, the hit has been put on her life. And so he's forced to like save her and get back into her life again. Because of course, even though he was like rescued, he still didn't feel like he could be with her because of how he killed her father. And at first I thought she was going to be like, not tell him, which she said she wasn't going to tell him, but she instantly tells him, she's yours. And so I was so happy with that. So, end of spoilers, but anyways, there's a lot that goes on at the end of that book and the wrap up of them being together, and I just loved it. I am super excited for the next book, which is going to be her sister and their stepbrother, and you know, he's out of prison and stuff, and so I can't wait for that book. So I gave that one 5 stars. It was so good. It's my new favorite in the series. And then I think I gave it a 3.5 chilies. I loved it. I love Kai. I love them together. They were perfection. So I don't know if this will be the end of my updates, because I don't know if I'll finish that other book or not. So we shall see. But I will check back in with you guys once I finish it anyways, because it might be tomorrow or not. It doesn't matter. I'll just still do a final check-in and let you know what I thought of that final book and kind of show you what I did with my bingo board and all that stuff too. Okay, so I will check back in with you probably tomorrow. Hey guys, so I am doing my final check-in. I actually did finish The Darkest Temptation last night. This is the 3rd book. I think it's called Made. I can't remember what the series is called, but it's by Danielle. And this was going to hit the Bratva prompt. I did finish it last night, but I didn't really add it to a bingo board or anything because I did have a lot of points, so I wasn't really that stressed out about it. Just had a great time doing the Mafia Readathon. So this one was very interesting. I ended up buying it on Audible because there was like a good sale going on. And I'm so glad I did because this is set in Russia. So in this we have Mila, I believe. Yeah, Mila. She's about just turned 20. She's really naive, very sheltered. She grew up like kind of believing her dad was like a businessman, like some kind of like, I don't know if she thought he was an investor, something like that. And he traveled a lot for work. And recently he was supposed to be like in Russia, and his trip took longer than she expected. And so he's been kind of vague with her about what he does and what he's doing there. So she decided to basically sneak out because she does have a bodyguard, a Russian guy that's her bodyguard. And she kind of sneaks in, flies out to Russia to kind of surprise her dad to see what's really going on. When she gets there, they're like, the people thought that she was dead, like she died as a baby. She finds out she has this opera singer mother that everybody hated. And so she's kind of like left to wander because she doesn't really have anywhere to go. Her dad's not there. And so she ends up basically kind of dropping in the lap of our hero, which is Ronan, I believe. Is that his name? Okay, sorry about that. So yeah, his name is Ronan. I totally forgot his name. And, you know, he's kind of comes off pretty nice. He doesn't really have to work very hard to woo her or anything because she's instantly attracted to him. And, you know, she's really interested. He kind of does a little bit of wooing, but not a lot. But she basically just put herself in the path of her father's enemy, and Ronan decides to kidnap her. He captures her, takes her out in the middle of nowhere where he has like a lot of guards out, and it's like miles and miles before you can really get anywhere. So she would never really make it out in those elements. And he basically, this turns into a captor-captive romance. And I thought it was a very interesting captor-captive. He's holding her as a captive, as like collateral and as a revenge against her father. And lo and behold, her father is in the Bratva, and it's this guy's enemy. This guy is running Moscow right now. And her father's kind of been pushed out. But he hates her father and all of that. So it ends up being kind of interesting because she was really naive. She's like very sunshiny, looking at the positive side of things. And so he's very like cynical and dark and this broody Russian. And the reason I really was happy I got this audiobook was the Russian accents. And when he would speak in Russian, it was amazing. The male narrator just was phenomenal. Like, it was super sexy. This is what I wanted out of like the Off Balance series. I wanted Kova's voice, and they did it all women like narrating, since it's all from, you know, the female's perspective. But I wanted the male like Russian accent. So I absolutely loved that in this. I think the narration was so well done. The female like speaks in Russian sometimes, and she will speak in French, and she also brought like a really good bubbly kind of feeling that you really felt like Mila was like that. So I think it's definitely worth it if you're into that, to get the audiobook, because it is duet narration as well, which I always love it so much better when it's duet narration. So I had a really good time with this. It was kind of like frustrating, you know, this heroine, but I thought that she had an interesting arc, because she goes from being very naive and sheltered to like kind of strong and powerful and sticking up for herself. And she's pretty feisty with Ronan. She fights back. She kind of gets all these people that work at his house to like really love her. The difficult dog that nobody can be around basically falls for her. So I really did enjoy it. So I ended up giving this one 5 stars, and I had a really good time. It was 3.5 chilies. I highly recommend that audiobook. So that was it for the Mafia Readathon. Now I'm on to my regular reading, but I do have the new Jagger Cole coming out. I got the ARC, so I should be getting the ARC soon, so I'll be back into Mafia again. But I will just put up, if I remember, to like some of my graphics, because I didn't black out my board, but I got quite a few bingos. I did so much of the extra points option, and that's what allowed me to get a lot of these extra points. And I thought that was such a fun idea that Jen did. So anyways, I had a great time. As always, I love Mafia Romance, and this actual readathon got me into Mafia Romance. So I'm so appreciative. Thank you, Jen. You're amazing. So thank you so much. If you made it to the end, give me some black hearts, and leave me a comment down below. As always, please remember to subscribe to my channel, and I will see you on the next vlog.